You know what's the similarity between you and an AI? Basically, you take some kind of information, let's say that sports, media, this kind of stuff, and then you take it, then you store it in your brain, and then you outsource it. Outsource it, or you would say the way you behave, the way you talk, the way you share information to others. It's pretty simple. Like you take something, you put it in your brain, and then you behave like this. But there are two type of things for it, or there you could say it could go both ways. For example, you're consuming good stuff, you're storing it in your brain, and that's the way we. But let's say you go down to the different route, or you could say the bad type of route. You're taking bad information, you're storing it in your brain, and then you're outsourcing it. And people could tell. People could tell the way you speak, the way you behave, the way you, like believe in yourself, the way you take care of yourself. It's all shown when you're talking to others or like in person. Like people could tell that you're consuming some kind of negative type of things when you're acting negatively, when you're always demotivating, when you're always, like kind of training. So how to change that? And if you're in that kind of rat hole, like you couldn't, like change it, this kind of stuff. The way to change it is pretty simple. Is to change the way you consume things. Is to change the things that you consume, the things that you believe in, the things that you really want to be. Let's say that you're consuming depressed kind of reels, for example, like sad kind of movies, the movies where the main character dies, the movies where the main character is bullied, blah blah blah, this kind of thing. If you're consuming all that, remove that, remove that, and then change into something, which is motivating, which is, like fulfilling, which is telling you to find your purpose, find some kind of way to earn money, find the confidence within yourself. If you're believing and consuming in those kind of things, then you'll store it in your brain, and then that's the way you'll behave, that's the way you talk to other people, that's the way you'll, like be in person, or like when you're looking at the camera, or when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you could tell that there's such a difference. But the difference is pretty simple. You're just changing the stuff that you're consuming. Yeah, that's all it. Because most of the time, why people are most depressing, why most of the people are unfair, while most of the people can't even be confident. It's because the way and the things that they're consuming reels, like, like mukbangs, this kind of stuff, the stuff that is motivating. No, I mean the stuff that is demotivating, the stuff that is, like telling them that you can do that because you don't have a certain shoulder and you don't have a shoulder with this kind of stuff. If you're consuming black pill, mukbangs, porn, this kind of stuff, of course, you're going to lose trust in yourself. You're going to lose confidence, and people would tell that you're watching some kind of degenerate stuff because what you consume is what you show to other people, and that's how you behave to others, and that's how you behave to yourself as well. Because if you're consuming mukbang all the time, you could, like you get that feeling of like, I want to eat, I want to eat, I want to eat, and then you'll gain fat, and then you'll look ugly. That's the reality. Like you're consuming some kind of stuff which will, like trigger your brain to feed yourself some kind of, like OU, this kind of stuff, sugary stuff, sugar processed stuff, and then you'll gain fat, and then you'll say things like, "Oh man, it's because of this, blah 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 blah." Most of the time, it's just because what you're consuming in your phone, what you're consuming in the newspaper, it's just the things that you're consuming. And let's talk about some people who are angry all the time. They're angry about this kind of stuff. They're thinking like the world is about to end, blah blah blah. Those type of people, most of them always was some kind of like, like theory or some kind of, like news that the world is ending, the world is changing, blah 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 blah. If you don't, if you consume that kind of negativity, you will gain and you will store it in your brain, and then you will act negatively, and that is not attractive, like when you're acting negatively all the time, you're saying some kind of things that will end, blah blah blah. That type of energy is not, it's not good. Like it's generally not good. So what can you do? What can you do to change your life? What can you do to like fix yourself? It's just change the way you consume things, change the things that you consume. Invest your time in things, for example, like how to improve your health, how to improve your confidence, how to improve your social skills, how to improve, like the way you process of things, the way you believe things. Consume things which are like a bit motivating. Consume the things which are like some kind of things which will help you to do more, or some kind of things which will give you a ground reality check that, oh, most of the time, all I have to do is just believe in myself and just work hard. Like, let me give you my example. I wasn't the most social kid, I wasn't the most confident kid, but if you look at me now, you could tell that I'm confident in myself and I could also portray that confidence to other things as well. But I wasn't that way because I was also consuming things, for example, like demoting type of stuff, like sad music, blah, blah, blah. I was also consuming those kind of stuff, which was showing to others. But the time when I changed, for example, like, I went to like some kind of self improvement, this kind of stuff. I took that information, stored it in my brain, and that's how I worked towards it. Like I saw some, like YouTuber making a transformation. He was an unsocial kid as well. Then I saw him and he transformed himself towards a more social type of stuff. And then like I got a trigger warning in my brain that if he can do this, I could do this as well. So I tried working on myself. I tried working on my confidence. I tried working on my body, this kind of stuff. And slowly by slowly, you could tell that I'm getting more and more confident. But if I never consume it, those kind of content, or if I never stop consuming those kind of sad type of reels, this kind of stuff, I would never be here and I would never be confident. So just change the way you consume things, change the things that you consume. It will really change your life.